Hey guys, I'm back with cellular respiration and we're going to be talking about the Krebs cycle. Now if you notice over here on the right, we start out with pyruvates that came from glycolysis, and they are a 3-carbon compounds. And we're going to go through this Krebs cycle here, which is going to produce some things that we're going to talk about. Alright, so when we talk about oxidation of pyruvates, we're basically taking the 2 pyruvates that are created, which are the 3-carbon compounds, and breaking them down into acetyl-CoA, which is a 2-carbon compound, and releasing carbon dioxide, which is a 1-carbon compound. So if you count your carbons, a 3-carbon compound goes to a 2-carbon compound and release a single carbon compound. Now notice that something is created here. Something's created is the NADHs are created. Now NADHs, if you remember, are how we move electrons from place to place, and the electrons contain energy that's going to be used in some type of process. Now this acetyl-CoA that's created enters what we call the Krebs cycle. Now sometimes you might hear the Krebs cycle called the citric acid cycle. It basically takes place in the mitochondrial matrix, and it was discovered by a man named Hans Krebs, and it's simply an 8-step pathway in which specific enzymes come in and they break down or oxidize carbons, and each time they do, they release electrons and some ATP is created. So the Krebs cycle did evolve later than glycolysis. I've got the evolutionary pathway down here. You know, if we say 3.5 billion years ago, you have bacteria that were doing glycolysis. Around 2.7 billion years ago, you had photosynthesis taking place and you started having free oxygen in the air. Then about 1.5 billion years ago, you started to have eukaryotes happen, which actually did aerobic respiration, which was in the mitochondria organelles. So you can kind of see that progression. And this Krebs cycle is taking place in the mitochondria. Now here's kind of the whole Krebs cycle in a nutshell. You start out with a 3-carbon pyruvate. It's going to be turned into acetyl-CoA and carbon dioxide. Those 2-carbon acetyl-CoAs are going to go into the Krebs cycle, where they're going to join with 4 other carbons to make a 6-carbon compound. And each time carbon is oxidized, you're going to have hydrogens creating NAD or FAD H2s. And this process happens 2 times. So if you bring it in all in here together, you can see that at each step you have an NADH being produced. This NADH is kind of like money in the bank, as we call it, because it's going to be used later in the electron transport chain to actually make the ATPs that we've been looking for. Now there is an ATP made here, so if it happens twice, 2 ATPs come out of the Krebs cycle. So if you look, if you have a glucose molecule, which is C6H12O6, and it's oxidized or broken down into carbon dioxide, so it's like we take in food, we breathe out carbon dioxide, then you get a net of 4 ATPs. 2 of those came from glycolysis, 2 of those came from the Krebs cycle. That's not a lot of ATPs. So what is the point? Well, the main point is that we've created electron carriers or hydrogen carriers. We've created NAD and FAD with H's attached. So NADH and FADH2 have been created. These are going to go to the electron transport chain where a lot more energy is going to be created. So in summary, if you look here, after it goes through this process twice, you get a net gain here at the bottom. You get 2 ATPs being produced, and 8 NADs and 2 FADs are being created. Those are very important because that's where the energy takes place. Now, you might not think that this is an evolutionary adaptation, but it actually is, because it allowed the organism to get more energy, because these NADs and FADs carried energy to the electron transport chain where they could be oxidized a little bit more. So if you do it one more summary, ATP is accounted so far for glycolysis, produces 2 ATPs. Krebs cycle produces 2 ATPs. And then we know life takes more than 4 ATPs. I mean, actually, I got a little quote down here in the bottom. A working muscle recycles over 10 million ATPs per second. So 4 ATPs are not a lot. There's got to be a better way, and that better way is the electron transport chain, which we are going to talk about next time. All right, guys, I hope that helps.